Guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Florida Treasure Coast Market Update. Stay with me, and we're going to show you some really interesting stats.
You better get fired up.
Hey guys, good to see you. Happy Wednesday. We're here every single Wednesday at 11 o'clock where we talk about the market here in Port St. Lucie, or sometimes we stretch it out to the Treasure Coast. And today I want to go over some stats that are probably not going to match what you've heard in the news. Some stats that when I saw them, I thought, wow, this is not the perception that's being sold to us. That's really interesting. And these stats too are going to sell a different picture than what I think reality is as well. But it's actual data, actual, statistics. I put it out there because what I'm trying to do with this is to show you that what you hear is not always true. Now, what I'm about to show you too, I don't think paints a perfect picture, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to share with you why then what I suggest to look at these stats. I'm going to go over all that, but I just want to present a different picture for you. So what I'm going to do, let's see if I can figure out how to share screen here. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go, and share. Okay, so let's pull some stats. Here we go. So I pull these. That's not true. My staff pulls these. I can't take their credit. Every single Monday. Okay, and you can see we started doing this. Well, you can't see because it's blocked out between columns B and O. But I started doing this back in the middle of 2023. Every single Monday, I pull these stats, and we're looking at, 9, 10, 11 stats. So actives is how many single-family homes are currently actively on the market being sold. So if you went to Zillow and you punched in Port St. Lucie, single-family homes, poof, this Monday, there'd be 1,900. Let's see if we can make this bigger. How do we make this bigger? I have no idea how to do that. There's got to be a zoom button. What does this do? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, cool. So there's 1,943 homes currently for sale as of Monday on the market. Okay. And the second stat is we basically just break it down into up to 500 grand and 500 grand plus. Really, if I'm your agent and I'm coming in and I'm going to, do a lot of analysis for you and research for you, I'm going to break it down even better than that. Because if you've got a $550,000 home, I don't want to just compare you to 500,000 plus, because that's including $800,000-900,000 homes, $1 million homes. I want to probably look at 500 to 600 grand. Let's keep it tight, right? If you've got a $475,000 home, I don't want to compare you to $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes. If you're at 475, I'm going to look probably from about 4.25 to 5.25, 50,000 on each end, and I'm going to give you very specific data. But this gives us a general overview. So up to 500,000, that's the lower price points. You can see that makes up the majority. In fact, let's grab a calculator and see. Right now, 1231 divided by 1943. 63% of the homes on the market are in that up to 500,000 price point. Okay, when I look at the first of 2024, what's that, 19 months ago? It was, what are we at, 63.5%? It was 61%. So honestly, it's been more than a year and a half, and we've got 2% more of the homes on the market are in that lower price point. Why? Some prices have dropped. Also, a lot of sellers in those lower price points are actually seeing fish on the hook. They're excited. They want to be on the market. People 500,000 plus are not seeing fish jumping into their boat quite as much as the lower prices. So they're getting less excited and coming off. In fact, I'm going to look this up on my Instagram right now, and I put an Instagram post up. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, here it is. When I looked at May and June, so a 2-month period this year in 2025 versus last year in 2024, over that roughly 60-day period, I looked at canceled and withdrawn listings. There were 63.7% more canceled and withdrawn listings this year than last year. Why is there 60% more listings coming off the market? A canceled listing is the seller and agent coming together and saying, hey, let's pull it off the market for whatever reason. It could be a lot of things. It could be a death, a health concern. They changed their mind. Usually what it is, hey, we thought we were going to get X dollars. We're not getting any bites. We're not going to sell it short of that. So let's just take it off the market. That's typically what you see. So what that tells me, because our sales are still looking strong, you'll see that in a second. What that tells me is this is a price sensitive market. This market, if I tell you your home is worth 500, you put it on for 520, you're not going to sell in most cases. It's going to be challenging for you. You need to be at $500,000 on day one. In fact, if you go to 520 and 30 to 60 days later, you drop to 5, you're probably still not going to get 500. Why? Because there are a few homes on the market that are 500,000 and they're actually worth 500,000. And your competitors have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days on the market. You have 37 days on the market. So what a buyer's going to tell me when we're looking at that property and it says 2 days on the market, they're going to say, oh, there could be other buyers interested. Let's get an offer in. Let's make it a strong offer, full price. Let's give them great terms. We want this sucker accepted. There's not a lot of negotiation going on in that first couple weeks because they feel the pressure of other buyers, whether it's true or whether it's mythical. But when you've been on for 37, 45, 62 days plus, and you now come down to where you should have been priced, and that's assuming that your price points haven't come down, which they have in a couple markets. Now, yeah, you're still going to get the offers, but they're going to be for 490, 480. If you've got a great realtor who's really good at negotiating, maybe they can get them up. But 71% of realtors didn't sell a house last year. So in most cases, that's going to be your best bet, 480, 490. You could have got 500 on day one. Now you're getting 480, 490. It is a price sensitive market. For that reason, all those people that are at, in this example, 520, and they're not getting what they want, a lot of them are saying, forget it. Let's take it off the market. We'll try in a year or two, whatever. We don't need to sell. That's a good thing. That is a good thing for everybody. It's good for that seller because they're not wasting their time and creating inconveniences in their life. It's good for realtors because I don't want to waste my time with people who aren't serious. It's good for buyers because they're not wasting their time looking at an overpriced home, giving them a good market offer. Maybe it's not the price you want, but according to the market, it's great. And you're wasting their time because you're not going to accept it and they're not going to come and pay you more than the market's saying it's worth. So everybody's wasting time and resources are going to waste. When they come off the market, that's a plus for everybody. It's a plus for everybody. So this is a good thing. Okay. Now, if we saw that coupled with some other things like lower sales and higher inventory and everything else, I'd be a little concerned, but that's not what we're seeing. So let's get back to this data that I was trying to show you. So here you can see 1,943 homes are on the market. The median asking price is $469,000. When we look at 45-day sales, so like today is the 6th of August. I'm going to count today plus the 44 days before it, that total of 45 days. And I'm going to look at how many single family homes sold in Port St. Lucie. So as of Monday, it was 529, 417 were up to 500 grand and 500,000 plus, it was 122. Now you might say, well, Joe, when I had 417 to 122, that's 539. Why do you have 529 up here? Well, what that tells me is there's 10 homes exactly that are priced exactly at 500,000. So they got counted in both. This isn't a perfect system, folks. It's really good, but it's not perfect. Okay. So 529 homes. Now the median sales price has come down. Look at this. Look at this last year. We had one goofy week, but disregard that because if I open up all these, you'll see that's a goofy week. 420, 423.5, 415, 412, 418, 4.25, 424, almost 15, 415, 409, 405. Okay. So the prices are coming down. Does that mean that what was going for 450 is now maybe going for 435? Yes and no. All right. What's probably happening, and this isn't exact science, this is just me kind of trying to give you an example so you understand what's going on, is that 450 is now going for 440. And you'd say, but yeah, it's down roughly $15,000. Why wouldn't you say 435, Joe? Because what you're seeing is a lot of higher priced homes. That's a tougher market, way more inventory. We'll talk about that in a second. They're seeing that it's not happening for them. And at a much higher percentage, they're pulling their homes off the market. Whereas those lower price points up to 500,000, it's working for them. If they're pricing it right, if they're showing right, if they got a great realtor with a great marketing plan and everything else, they're getting their homes sold. So they like it. So they continue to put their homes in the market. We got a lot of homes coming on the market and they're selling, right? because lower priced homes are what is selling, the median sales price comes down. That doesn't mean all prices have come down. What it means is that price point is the hot price point. It's what's selling. The higher price point, not as many of those are selling. So some of it, and I'm guessing it's roughly 2/3, 1/3, but that's a complete guess. 2/3 of it is, yes, prices are coming down. 1/3 of it is lower price points are what is selling. Higher price points aren't selling as much. Okay. So now we look at actual inventory, and let's talk about what that is before I explain, or before we get to the numbers. Inventory is saying, okay, let's look at today, right? We've got 1,943 listings on the market in Port St. Lucie, single family homes. If we don't put another listing on the market, how long would it take us to sell those 1,943 homes if we sold homes at the rate of 529 every 45 days? So I can take 1,943 divided by 529 times 45 days, and that gives us, it will take 165.3 days to sell those 1,943 homes at a pace of 529 every 45 days. Okay. When I look up to 500,000, it's 133 days. When I look at 500,000 plus, it's 266 days. Much different. This is almost exactly double the inventory when you go 500,000 plus. And again, if you were my client, I would not be looking 500,000 plus if your home is 550. I'd be looking 5 to 6. If your home is 800, I'd probably look 700 to 900. All right. But this gives you kind of a broad idea of what's going on at different price points in the Port St. Lucie market. So here's the thing I want to show you with all the naysayers, the negativity, all the bad news out there. Here's one statistic that's really drawn my attention. Okay. I want you to look at March right here, column BX. March, how many actives did we have? 21.32. Now we've got less homes on the market. Okay, this isn't perfect because I only show the beginning of every quarter last year, but look at April, 1,556, and then look at July, 1,627. It went up. What did it do this year? And then look again, it went up in October. Up, 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 up. That's what it does. And then about October, it starts to come down, right? You can't see that from this, but I'm just telling you. What happened this year is it peaked out in March and then it started coming down. Why? Because a lot of people, this is what I'm seeing, are saying, hey, this market is not for people who want to overprice their homes. And I know I'm an overpricer, so I'm not going to do it. And those people are staying off the market. All of them? No, there's still people overpriced. Trust me, there always will be. But a good percentage of them are. And I would guess 90 to 95% of the people who are coming off, deciding not to go, are people who would be overpricing and wasting their time, their agent's time, their buyer, and their buyer's agent's time. All those time wasters are coming off. So we've got more serious, better price sellers on the market. That is great news. Now let's look at March sales compared to today's sales. Right here, it says 395 sales. That's over a 45-day span. So what would that'd be like roughly mid to late January to March 3rd. We had 395 home sales. How many did we have Monday? 529. So let's look this up here quick. I got my trusty calculator out. 2132 minus 1943 divided by 2132. Actives on the market have come down almost 9%. So for every 100, there's now 91. Okay, we got rid of 9 overpriced, non-serious sellers. That's great news. What happened to sales? 529 minus 395 divided by 395. They've gone up 34%. Actives have come down 9. Sales have gone up way higher, 34%. For every 100 sales, there's now 134. Okay. So I'm not saying, and again, I want to point out, and I kind of said this in the beginning, I'm going to show you something. You're going to think, oh my gosh, the market's on fire. The market's not on fire, even though what I just showed you is strong, right? This is all, what's the word I'm looking for? Respective. It's all respective to something else. What I'm going to tell you, and I would tell you this if I was your realtor and I was sitting with you as a buyer or as a potential listing client, I'd say you need to look at your inventory, which is these three numbers right down here. Okay. When you see 3 to 4 months, that's typically when I call, or what I call, a neutral market. Some agents will say it's 5 to 6 months or 3 to 6 months or whatever. But when I see 3 to 4 months, that's when I'm seeing a home going on the market at a price that matches comparable recent sales. So let's say all the recent sales are 400 grand. They listed at 400 grand. I'm typically seeing that that home is going to attract an offer in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, and they're going to sell right at asking or within maybe $5,000 of asking. It's going to be very close. That to me is a pretty neutral market. A seller's market is where they're going to get 3, 4, 5 offers. They're going to sell at a minimum of market price. They might sell $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 or more back in 2021 over asking price. That to me is a seller's market. You can do what you want, dictate what you want, not just to include price, but also to include terms. That is a real seller's market. Anything over 4 months, now it starts to become a buyer's market where I'm not really competing against other offers as a buyer's agent. I mean, you do here and there, but not often. You're able to negotiate $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 off on price pretty consistently. If I'm a seller and I'm getting offers like that and I'm saying no to them, I'm probably not selling. You're going to get asked to pay closing costs as a seller. Some of them you'll negotiate and say no, and they'll actually still move forward. Some of them won't. It becomes more of a buyer's market. And once you get out to like 7, 8, 9 months, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger of a buyer's market. So looking at these numbers down here, the market as a whole is about what, 5.5 months? That is a light buyer's market. And that feels about right. On the whole, it's a light buyer's market. But again, I would say, man, it's totally different markets, because look at this. Up to 500,000, it's about 4.5 months. Well, that's really close to a neutral market. And I'll tell you, 500,000 is a little bit higher. If I bring that down to about 375, 4, you're going to see that we've got about 2.7 months of inventory. Now we're looking at a seller's market, right? If I've got a well-priced home that's in that 3.25 to 375 range, or it's 375, 4, but it's got a pool, that's a seller's market. And I know it because I look at the inventory. I don't go based off my feelings. I support my feelings by data. Okay. And then when you look at the 500,000 plus, you're looking at, man, I got to do some math here. 240 is 8 months. So this would be almost 9 months, 9 months of inventory. And if I bump that to 600,000 plus, it would probably be 12 plus months of inventory. Okay. And every HOA is different. Some HOAs have 3 months inventory. Some HOAs have 24 months of inventory. A home with a pool is going to sell a heck of a lot quicker than a home without a pool. A $350,000 home is going to sell a heck of a lot quicker than an $800,000 home. And all of those numbers will shift over time, right? Depending on the market, depending upon what the media is telling them, depending upon the rates, depending upon the economy, how much money people generally have in their pockets. It depends on so many things, and it's ever changing. But those are the numbers you should be focused on, as inventory. Look at your inventory. So again, I'm not selling you that the market is rosy and it's great. What I'm selling you on is to quit listening to the news and start listening to your realtor. And hopefully your realtor understands how to pull stats like these. If they don't, use your realtor. But before you call your realtor, call me and I'll give you the numbers. Now you're educated. Now you can call your realtor. I'm happy to do that. I want you guys making good decisions. But now you know, if there's 2, 3 months of inventory, okay, let's listen to our realtor when it comes to price, and we can start to plan that we're going to move in the next 45 to 90 days. That's probably going to happen. And we're probably going to get full market value, not full price necessarily. You got to be priced right, but full market value. If we're looking at 7, 8, 9, 10 months or 14 months, we might be here for 6, 7, 8 months. We absolutely need to be priced at market, maybe even a hair under. We absolutely need this sucker to be staged right. I've got sellers right now declining showings, half their showings. I got one seller who, if he gets 10 showings, he declines 5 of them, hoping that I can call and negotiate that those other 5 reschedule around his schedule. And 2 or 3 of them will, but 2 or 3 of them won't. So he's getting 20 to 30% less showings than other sellers, and he's 500,000 plus, and he may be overpriced. There's a lot of challenges. That guy's going to have a really tough time selling. So you've got to take advantage of every possible thing you can when you've got 12 months inventory. And man, you better have a marketing plan. You better have somebody who knows how to negotiate. You better have a sharp as a tack realtor, because it's not easy, and they're going to do 90% of the work that they're doing behind the scenes. You're not going to see it. You better know they're good up front. Knowing those inventory numbers paints that picture for you and tells you what your expectation should be and how you can prepare before you put your home on the market or even call your realtor, right? So guys, hopefully that was helpful. If there's anything that maybe I didn't say clearly and you've got more questions about, or if there's something you'd like me to focus on in the market in a future video, feel free to put it in the comments or send me a private DM. Happy to do it. Guys, thanks for joining me. Again, we're here every single Wednesday at 11 o'clock for the Florida Treasure Coast Market Update. Love to see you next week. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful week.